All right, it's 2 p.m. Central African time. It is 4 p.m. East Africa time in Nairobi and 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in New York. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Market View. I'm your host, Sifiso Ngumalo. Today, we are diving deep into market dynamics and financial news with expert analysis. Our business journalist, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla, explored the pivotal role of the Eswatini's Economic Policy Analysis and Research Center, popularly known as ESEPAC. Now, ESEPAC is a cornerstone think tank providing crucial policy analysis as well as research, guiding governmental decisions to boost our business sector. Dr. Thabo Sakolo, ESEPAC's executive director, shared insights with Nelisiwe on their impactful contributions to Eswatini's economic welfare. Now, later in our program, per usual, economist Sanele Sibia is going to join us to decode today's financial rates, offering, of course, invaluable insights into the current financial landscape. So stay tuned with us as we unpack today's market trends right here on Market View. For now, let's look at today's business news. Let's kick off our business news with this really interesting story coming from the Construction Industry Council, which is conducting training sessions which are aimed at enhancing financial management skills among businesses in the construction sector. Now, speaking at the training held at Mountain View on Monday, the council's acting CEO, Sikumbuzo Mamba, highlighted that the initiative aligns with their strategic vision to enhance business growth and operational efficiency for contractors. There's a report.
After receiving different needs from contractors, CIC, supported by UNESCO, undertakes a contractor development training workshop. The acting CEO, Sikumbuzo Mamba, encourages contractors to participate so they can be able to manage their businesses better.
The training is divided into two parts. We have the business management and we also have the financial management part. On the financial management, the contractors actually reported to us that part of the needs that they have, the business owners, they need us to actually assist them in actually managing their creditors, because you will find that there are frauds that are taking place in the businesses where you find that the business owner is unable to meet the obligations with the creditors that they currently have. So what we have there, we actually assist them in actually planning on their expenditure, actually plan on what expenditure they actually need to actually counter first before they can even attend to the other challenges.
Tsinegele Mota, representing Velekaya Group, gives us highlights of the course.
CIC has actually involved SMEs, who are basically a backbone of any economy in any country. So by equipping us with the skills, this is actually helping us to be able to fulfill the role that I believe that we play, which is ensuring this there is opportunities of employment.
Namile Zulu, representing Mebra Proprietary Limited, highlights what she has grasped so far that will help in the development of their business.
I took a situational leadership grid. It applies both to employees and the directors, as I'm one of the directors of Mebra. This grid allows you to place yourself into it. It talks about supporting, delegating, coaching, and directing. So basically, you are supposed to be, as a leader, to be able to place each of your employees in this grid so that you evaluate their performances or your own performances, because you can put yourself in the grid as well, so that after the evaluation, then you are able to do better. The main thing, the one big thing about running a business is that, you like it or not, you have to focus on one thing. You cannot, she even said, you cannot chase two rabbits. You will be able to catch one or you will lose both of them. So I noticed in the construction company that the pie is getting smaller and smaller. So most of these construction companies are trying to expand. They want to do everything. Everyone wants to build. Everyone wants to do landscaping. Everyone wants to do interior design. Everyone wants to do roofing alone. But it doesn't work like that. You have to choose one thing and expand on that so that your business is a success.
The workshop continues until Thursday, the 18th of July 2024. Reporting for Market View, Spiosa Mikininza, Junior Adakwa, Mbabane.
The Youth Leadership and Transformation Organization, popularly known as Youth-Led, is advocating for young people to leverage their skills in starting businesses despite challenges such as funding constraints as well as loan repayment difficulties. Now, Director Paul Ngambule, who has led the organization for the past 5 years, emphasized that entrepreneurship goes beyond securing funding, that it requires a positive attitude for business success.
Young people have often complained that loans and revolving funds do not work well for them because the economic landscape does not allow them to service their loans, leading to financiers losing trust in them. The director of Youth Leadership Transformation Organization says the youth should use their skills to build resilient small and medium enterprises.
Athi discover ukuthi okay mina ngiwaphi ama-skills lenginawo ngoba uNkulunkulu usiniketile ama-skills through ama-talenta ethu lesinawo nalabanye-ke bagcine sabawathola esikolweni ngenxa yetifundo labadendako. Lokusho ukuthi umuntu omusha-ke kungamsita kakhulu uma ngabe afuna ukuqala ibhizinisi. Angayicala le bhizinisi le ngokuthi asebenzise le skill lanaso noma-ke atiphilise noma athole umsebenzi ngalama-skills lanawo. Kumcwa ukuthi umuntu omusha a-unlock skill lanaso.
Young people have also lamented that lack of research resources have hindered the success of their businesses. The director of Youth-Led says there are studies that have already been conducted by government entities like the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority and NAMBOD, which could provide guidance of the most imported products to Eswatini.
Kumcoka lokho ukuthi uyende research before uqala ibhizinisi. Lengakusho nje ukuze uqala ibhizinisi kumele wati bantu, know your market, ubati labantu ukuthi yini labakuthandzako, ubabude phinzi. Nyaloko sokungcono ngoba sicishe inkumbi yethu sesigcwele ngala etinkundleni tekuxhumana. You can create a poll and ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask church members ukuthi kahle kahle nina nifuna ini. Nawe-ke ungabuya uresearch-ke lamanye ama-research labawendile ngekubuka ukuthi uthini ukhona nje ngala ka-agriculture NAMBOD uye avete ukuthi imarket ihamba kanjani. Kunabo IPA bayaveta ukuthi kahle kahle live li imported imvelo ingakanani. Ngeva buhlungu kakhulu nje ukuthi live imported imvelo etiningi lengabe thina sesiyakhona kuvele sikhicitela kangwane.
NAMBOD alone has reported that last year about 2 billion in fruits and vegetables were imported to the country. The youth organization says understanding the most imported products is key in designing, launching and running a business. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
That marks the end of our business news. A lot more insights into the market world after the break.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back to the program. We are still tuned into Market View today. It is a very, very good Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. Now, coming up next on the program, we are looking into Eswatini Economic Policy Analysis and the Research Center, which serves as a pivotal think tank specializing in high-quality policy analysis. Nelson Dlangamandla, our very competent and proficient business journalist, sat down with the executive director.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sakolo, for joining us today. We have seen SEPAC doing different kinds of research, some of which are meant to uplift the economy. I just want to find out, before you do a research, is it because an organization has approached you, or do you see a demand for a certain research?
That's a beautiful question, and thanks for asking that. We have two modalities of coming up with research. We have the so-called demand-driven studies, where a client or a government ministry or any entity in the economy can approach us with a research need, and then we sit down, shape it into a research project we implement. That's the demand-driven. But we also have, as a think tank, because we also have to do the think tanking, which is the critical analysis and then culminating to research. We have the supply-driven studies, where our researchers, as they do whatever that they will be doing, they can scan the environment and identify research needs. But what's important there is that before we implement the research, we have to identify the potential stakeholder or the potential user of those recommendations. We engage with them, we align the idea, we say, okay, this is what we have as an idea of research. What do you think, as maybe the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Agriculture, whosoever is relevant in that space? We agree, they provide their inputs, and then we also agree on the implementation modality going forward, and then we implement the study.
Just running through your page this morning, I have realized that you are even doing research for the United Nations and other different organizations. Are the kinds of studies that you are doing having an impact in the space that you wish them to?
Yeah, most definitely. We have a handful of studies that qualifies, that fits your description, but one that I can talk to briefly is the skills audit. We conducted a skills audit for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security around 2022, 23. So what we found there is we were trying to understand the skills demand and supply. We found a glaring gap between what employers are looking for in terms of the skill imparted to the graduate or the person who had gone through that institution of higher learning. We found a gap between what the person has as a skill and what the employers want, what we call skills mismatch. Find that there's little alignment, and we tried to unpack the reasons behind that. As we were talking with the institutions of higher learning, we found that the resources are part of the problem. We find that they are supposed to be teaching practical subjects, but the materials and tools that are used during the practicals, they are not cheap. You find that they end up teaching more of the theory than the practicals, which then compromises the amount of skill that the graduate will have at the end of the day. And we find that some other reason to that is that the machinery that they will be using, it's not the latest machinery that is now available at industry, because even those machinery are not coming cheap. You find that the students are trained on technology that is almost obsolete. But with working with partners like the Taiwan Technical Mission, you find that gap is gradually, if not at a higher pace, being closed, because they are providing the machine, they are providing all this training to our lecturers and staff, so that gap would be bridged going forward. And with that skills skills audit assignment, we've also identified the skills that are in short supply in the economy, and the Ministry of Labour is also integrating that as they are thinking around the award of scholarships and the like. So we are seeing those benefits or outputs being utilized by government, which is a positive to us.
We know, Dr. Sakolo, that there is an outcry in the country of unemployment. I just want to know, what's your contribution to this challenge that the country is facing? Is there any research that you have done to help government to address this issue?
Okay, maybe I can
touch a little bit on the handcraft. We recently assisted the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade develop a handcraft sector policy, because you remember that development starts at the policy stage in terms of the hierarchy of the documents. And once we have a policy which gives a direction of this is where we want to take the sector, we agree as stakeholders, ministry and all other stakeholders involved, that this is our sector, we want to see the sector transforming into this, and then we have the policy. And then we ask ourselves a question: what is it in the policy that needs to be legislated? And then we take those things and now we draft bills which will then be approved by the government structures into acts. And then we then ask ourselves the question: what is it within those acts that needs to be further detailed into now, like almost operating procedure or regulations? And then we take those things into regulations. Where I'm going with that is that with the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, we have just developed a policy which now paints a picture of where the handicraft sector wants to go. And then it becomes easy for development partners to then fit in, because now they understand where government is trying to go. It's easy for them to assist in that direction. And then we also want that handcraft sector to be viable businesses, unlike people doing it as a fallback enterprise or as something to while away time. It should be meaningful. And whilst it becomes meaningful, because you remember that handicraft relies mostly on natural products, be it your grasses, your trees, and all these things that are renewable. So we said in that document, we need to be conscious of the environment, because we don't want, as we are promoting commercializing handicraft, we don't want a situation whereby we will harvest these natural resources to extinction. So we need to create a balance between the harvesting, commercialization, but also regeneration of the stock that we need into. So we're trying to provide or to spell out that balancing act that needs to be done. But now coming to the issue of businesses in general, it is a hard fact, a sad one in particular, to note that our businesses, small businesses, are struggling. The mortality rate it's alarming when it comes to small businesses. But having been around the block, not for so long, but for some time, working in the research space, interacting with a wide range of sectors in the economy, I've seen that there are the things that are outside of our control. Our economy, the economic environment is the ups and downs. It's like learning to swim in a high tide ocean. That's what our businesses are facing. But there are also elements that we can control that we are not mostly taking advantage of. What do I mean by that? Some of our, or if not most of our businesses, we small businesses, the issue of business culture, we are not so lucky when it comes to that. Maybe it's because of our, I would not say upbringing, but maybe because in our education, in our curriculum, the entrepreneurship doesn't come as early as maybe some economists do, like the Mozambican. They start entrepreneurship at a very, even the practical subject, they start at a very tender age, whereas we do those once or twice in our early career development stage. But what then compounds the problem is we don't seem to pay attention to social capital as small businesses. And I always complain about that one, to say you have any number of people who interacted with a small business person, but that interaction didn't go well. Whether you gave somebody something on credit and you didn't get paid, or you were promised a delivery at some point and that delivery didn't happen. And if you look into the reasons why the other party didn't hold their end of the bargain, it's because maybe, yes, there will be technical problems, they didn't have the capacity, but the fundamental base of that would be they didn't value, they opted for short-term gains than long-term benefits that will come from the relationship that they will build with that business partner that they are dealing with at the moment. So if you look at our business model and maybe the Asian business model, that is based on trust and reciprocity, which is something that we don't value the most as small business in Swatini.
From what I'm gathering from this conversation is that those who start businesses lack the business acumen. What do you suggest should be done?
So what we need to do as researchers, as business development practitioners, and all the other people working in that space, is to make these people understand the bigger picture. Is to make them understand that it is very important to build a partner that can come out, that can stick their neck out for you with a confident expectation that whatever that they are doing for you, they will not be shortchanged at the end of the day. So we need to develop and instill that business culture in our entrepreneurs, because the business acumen that they are talking about, the big part of it's honoring what we have said we are going to do, or honoring a contract, verbal or written contract. We need to increase, we need to strengthen that. And at SAPAC, we try by all means that whatever we do, we always look at the entire system to say, this is education, we are training these people, but what impact does it have in the employment sector? What impact does it have? Or this is the health. So we try to connect all the systems so that at the end of the day, we are providing recommendations that are not stepping stones for a problem that might be worse than the problem that we are trying to connect at hand.
You are dealing mostly with data and you rely on people to give you that data in order for you to release all the studies. How important is accuracy as you are conducting research?
I want to thank the stakeholders that we work with, in particular communities. You know, we do research, but the bigger part of research is data. The data is not something that sits with us. We have the tools to analyze the data, but the data sits with the different stakeholders. When we were doing the skills audit, we were heavy on the government ministries, the HR departments, to say provide us with the profile of your employees and everything. Is not easy, and we don't pay those people for giving us the data. That we only pay the people who send out to collect the data. So we really appreciate their effort, and we are saying the accuracy of that data, because in research they say garbage in, garbage out. So if they give us data that is not so accurate, no matter how beautiful, no matter how powerful the computers that we use are, whatever that we are going to churn out as recommendations is not accurate. So we implore them, and we appreciate that they do take their time to give us the accurate data, and the communities where we conduct the surveys.
Somewhere along our conversation, you mentioned that you make recommendations which act as a guide for policy. How important is it for government and all these other organizations that you are doing the studies for to follow those recommendations?
We do see an uptake in our recommendations. Like I said earlier, with the skills audit, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is already trying to use snippets of that to influence the award of scholarships. What I can say around that one is that in whatever we do at SAPAC, we thrive for the highest quality of recommendations for two reasons. This is our country. We are here to stay, and some of us, we are still at early to mid stage of career development. So we don't want to be caught. We don't want to appear in the books of history as the people who provided direction which didn't take the country to the level that we all desired. So that's why we always try, by all means, to stress test a recommendation. If it breaks, it should break on the table than to break when we are implementing it. So we don't take anything personal when we present a recommendation and we interrogate it. We are not interrogating what Thabo has said, but we are interrogating the recommendation as it is, regardless of who said or who produced that recommendation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sakolo, for joining us on Market View. We wish you the best as you continue conducting studies that are meant to uplift the country's economy.
Right on now, taking the baton from our esteemed business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla during that open and forthright discussion she had with Dr. Sakolo on the research economic impacts of ESAPAC into Eswatini's economy. Let's move on straight into our market analysis, welcoming Sanele Sibia in exploring the dynamics shaping today's financial world with him, who joins us virtually via a Zoom link. He's going to help us look at today's financial landscape across global markets, commodities, as well as currencies, from the upticks in U.S. indices to the fluctuations in Asian markets. Welcome, Mr. Sibia. Welcome to the program. What is driving these trends and what do they mean for investors? Let's start with the U.S. markets. The DJIA rose by 0.53%, while the Nasdaq Composite saw a 0.40% increase. What factors are contributing to this positive momentum in U.S. indices today?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So what we are looking at in the US is basically a rebasing of portfolios, not just portfolio expansion. That's why we are seeing also the S&P 500 really just climbing above the 5,600 mark. So we're seeing investors moving in their portfolios to areas that were not that much high profit, given the hard money environment, in anticipation of a soft money environment in September. So what also influences that, we're seeing earnings coming through from the bankers and also from the tech giants within the US. So that's why we are seeing that positive momentum within the economy. And also the issue of President Trump, the probability of re-election is also swaying markets in this direction that we are seeing, because it was a president that was good for business. Thank you.
European markets, such as the FTSE 100, DAX, and the CAC 40 experienced declines today. What are the key drivers behind the negative performance in these indices?
So basically what we are seeing there is overall investor confidence in the EU, in the Greater Euros region, has actually been weighing down a bit, given the prospects of President Trump's re-election. And also we are waiting CPI data to come in from London this week, and also to see how Paris props up its government, because we do have a hung government there that needs to be set up. So that's why we are seeing the overall the Euro region being on a negative spiral 2 days in a row now.
The Asian markets, as we age closer to our end of our interview, the Hang Seng index notably dropped by 1.60% today, contrasting with the Nikkei's modest 0.20% gain. With what geopolitical or economic factors influenced these divergent trends in Asian markets?
So what we are seeing in Hong Kong and basically through the Greater Asia region in China, that's the problem of Trump's re-election. That's weighing heavily on Asian markets, more especially China-linked or integrated economics. That would be your Hong Kong and the Hang Seng. So that's why we're seeing that. We've also seen a bit of movement in terms of propping up the property sector within China. So that's why we're seeing that the Hang Seng has actually improved a bit, while while Hong Kong has edged down a bit. But overall, Japan is performing well, because whatever the outcome in the US, that's an ally who works both better for the Japanese economy.
Perhaps before we get into the South African markets, let me just apologize, and I'm sure Mr. Sibia have also noticed. Let's apologize to our viewers. Our graphic there shows that all the numbers are on the green, but to our viewers who are listening attentively, you will take note that the numbers that we are highlighting orally are what pertains today. Let's get into South African markets. The JSE All Share Index showed a decline of 0.98%. What are the specific sectors or stocks driving this downturn in South Africa's market today?
So basically what we are seeing there is that shift in portfolios and, offshore investments with this new political instability that might brew potentially within the US. And also what we're seeing is, in the absence of better trade within the miners, that number would have actually been a bit worse compared to what it is right now. But while we are seeing that outflow of capital, the miners are actually benefiting on that gold glittering at the moment.
Commodities, starting off with gold prices, we saw a rise of about 0.66%. Brent crude fell by 0.87%. How are global supply dynamics and economic outlooks shaping these contrasting movements in commodity prices?
So what we are seeing with the gold is, the prospects of a rate cut in the US are actually much better now. So we are really expecting rates to start coming down in September, and that's what gold is actually benefited off of. While you're coming to the crude oil, what we are seeing there is, the Chinese economy didn't perform very well in this quarter, and there is that what's called the demand deficiency. So that is what is now pulling the number down. But also, if you prospect that against the rate cuts prospect, that's why we're seeing there's somewhat of a flow around the 84 region. The demand is expected to pick up, but not yet. We expected China to lead that demand in the short to medium term, but the growth figures coming out from there really didn't impress this time around.
Eating away maybe a minute from our designated time, we will be loath not to look at currencies today, considering this is a local show anyway. The USD SZL and the Euro SZL pairs both declined, but the SZL JPY saw an increase. What are the implications of these currency fluctuations?
So what we are seeing there basically is the Lilangeni has actually strengthened against the euro and also against the dollar and also against the Japanese yen. So we're seeing those international dynamics in terms of the Trump dynamics and how the interest rate dynamics are expected to play out, really benefiting, the Lilangeni, purely because it's based on it's linked to the South African rand, and South Africa is a minerals-rich economy. So that is in a way we're benefiting on that uptime in the price of gold.
Mr. Sibiya, thank you so much for your insights. How remiss would we have been have we not looked at the currencies today? That's the end of our conversation with you, Mr. Sibiya. Thank you so much to the viewers for staying with us on this very important program. Stay tuned for other programs on Eswatini TV. Have a good afternoon. Goodbye.